Hey, listeners, good morning. We are here on a Friday morning to yet another episode of a LinkedIn talk show series, Productivity League, hosted by We360.ai. As we say, productivity is an ever growing habit where we learn each day and implement the learnings to be at least 0.1% better every new day. In our talk show series, Productivity League, our mission has always been crystal clear. It is to build and a constructive learning community around this vital topic, productivity. The objective is that we all grow as a community together with the collective knowledge and experiences of our entire community. Good morning, everyone. I am Kunal Sinha, your host, and today we're diving deep into a very interesting topic where we'll talk about how to foster growth mindset by establishing a link between the feedback and performance. Now, this will, of course, be an interesting topic while the performance review season is just here. And we all know that in today's ever evolving landscape of modern workplaces and continuously evolving different kind of work cultures, performance reviews, feedback stand as a very important moment for both employees and as well as employers alike. They're not just routine performance reviews or feedback sessions. In fact, they're opportunities for growth, development, and the mutual understanding between manager and the team, or an employee and employer. And at the heart of these discussions, which are based around performance discussions, lies a very crucial element, and that is constructive feedback. Now, when we talk about feedback, it's not just merely about conveying feedback, it's about creating an environment where individuals feel empowered to share their thoughts, receive constructive criticism, and craft a path towards the improvement as an employer, as a worker, and of course, as an important element towards the organizational success and growth. So, here we are to explore how feedback plays an important role in performance enhancements. And today, we have some amazing guests with us who bring a wealth of experience around building and managing teams across different industries. So, not taking much time, let me quickly introduce you to the amazing speakers for today's event. In this episode, I'm privileged to host four amazing people: Rahul, Archana, Akhil. I will quickly introduce all the speakers and then I'll hand over the mic to them for taking us through their journey and detailed introduction about their journey, about their life, and about their professional accomplishments. So, starting with Rahul, he's a strategic learning and mindset transformation coach with over 11 years of experience across multiple industries. He's currently serving as a head of leadership and organizational development at Mar Labs. Our second speaker, Archana, is an HR professional with around 12 plus years of experience in human resources, and she's currently serving as manager HR at Image Graphics India. Our third guest, Akhil, he's an HR professional again with around 15 years of experience in human resources and talent acquisition, and is currently serving as a senior manager HR at Covalence Digital. Our fourth guest, who is about to join, she'll be joining in the next 5-10 minutes. She's an HR professional with around 5 plus years of experience, and she's currently serving as an HR professional at CSLM Solutions Private Limited. So, welcome all the amazing guests to our today's event. We're privileged to have you all in our show today. So, before moving to the introduction section, detailed introduction section about yourself, I'll just quickly explain the structure of today's event. First, of course, as discussed, I would like all of you to take out 2 to 3 minutes and take us through your journey, your experience, and your professional accomplishments. And then we can get into some specific questions that we have received from our listeners and community members. And I have separate questions for all of you, tailored to your specific experience and exposure. So, what we are trying to achieve here is like we'll try to understand from all of you how different challenges have solutions addressed differently to different teams, different experiences, and different industries, and how you or like our community members can actually cater to those different challenges. So, here we are. Rahul, I will want to start with you, uh, where you can just walk us through about your journey and your accomplishments.
Yeah, hi Kunal and hi everyone. Good morning to all of you. Really happy to be part of this forum the second time, in fact. So like, thanks to Lokesh for inviting me for this once again. Happy to be part of this again. Thanks for again introducing me, Kunal. Yeah, like you mentioned, I am currently heading the leadership and organizational development at this AI and ML focused company called Smart Labs Innovations. I sort of and culture. I had stints at TVS Motors and Mindtree. I was also in the UK. I did my MBA in Scotland and worked in the University of Abbey Counselor. Slowly moved on to freelance corporate training, coaching, and then a little bit of relationship counseling and things of those sorts. Besides that, I'm also a Carnatic musician. I'm a professional Carnatic vocalist. So what I try to do a little differently in what I do as a professional is I try to bring in psychology, philosophy, and a little bit of neuroscience also. So I think as we move through this talk today, I'll try to in the mind of people when feedback is happening, when feedback is being given or received, what exactly is happening at the brain level also. So maybe I can throw some insights on that, and I'm very curious to hear from the others as well. Yeah. Thanks once again for inviting, Kunal.
Thanks, Rahul. Glad to have you again with us, and hope we'll meet soon again, and then we can discuss more about the music side, as we discussed last
Certainly,
time.
certainly. Yes, certainly.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. So, Archana, over to you. If you can just walk us through about your experience, your journey.
Great. Hi, Kunal. Thank you so much. Thanks for the quick introduction on me. Thank you, Location We360 team, for having me here today for this talk show, along with great co-speakers. Being my first talk show, I'm so much excited, and I feel there's a lot of relevance and excitement to the topic that we're going to discuss, especially as you mentioned. Yes, the season of appraisals. To start with, a quick introduction on me. I started my career in 2007 in HR with Nippon Paint. Upon completing my postgraduate diploma in business management, business administration, and I specialized in human resource in 2006. Since then, in the last 17 years, I hold about 13 plus years of experience in human resources, working for varied industries. And currently, I'm associated with Image Graphics Software Solutions, a digital engineering software solutions and services focused organization as manager human resources. I'd also been a visiting faculty at Loyola for their part-time management programs. Promoting a positive and performing culture is of my great interest. Thank you, Kunal. Thanks, team.
Okay, thanks, Archana. Wonderful. You also have an impressive profile across. I mean, like you're into education, you're into performing arts. Wonderful to have you here. So, Akhil, over to you. If you can just walk us through about your experiences and your journey so far.
Great. So my name is Akhil. I basically working with I'm currently with Covalence Digital. I have about 15 years of experience into HR, people function, and people acquisition. I call it as people acquisition. So I started as a recruiter, moved gradually into strategic HR, where I've been doing a lot of people interactions, specifically into the same area. What topic today we are going to discuss? A lot of it includes performances and feedbacks and people development. That has been the key factor for me in all the organizations I have worked with. Currently, I'm with Covalence Digital. It's been 5 years. I will complete 5 years in another 2 months. So I'm considering that I've completed 5 years with Covalence Digital now. I've worked in the past with two startups. I did my own startup for about 4 to 5 years. I ran that, and then I was bankrupted. Came back to working again, and yeah, here I am with Covalence Digital right now. And I always say this that I am promoting happiness at Covalence Digital. Thank you, Kunal.
Wonderful, Akhil. I mean, your journey is really inspiring and amazing.
Yep,
And I love the last line. You're spreading happiness at your company. That's wonderful because that is so rare nowadays. People have actually stopped considering this particular word is so I mean, like so seriously. They just think that they just take happiness for granted, whereas every one of us is actually working for being happy at the end of the day.
absolutely, absolutely.
So love that line. So thanks to all the speakers for actually a wonderful introduction, and of course all of you have some wonderful uh side stints or some amazing part of your journey which is like which is not there on LinkedIn, which is not there in your CV. And that's why I open up this particular stage to every speaker so that they can actually open up about their life and their challenges that they have faced. So wonderful to listen to all of you here. So we'll get into the specific questions as I've told that we have received from our listeners, and of course, we all would love to understand your insights on these questions. So just a heads up, I will keep the questions in random order to stay as unbiased as possible by not following certain priorities towards any of the speakers or the community members who have posted these questions. So I would want to start with Akhil since you were the last to introduce yourself. So I would like to start with the first question from you.
Sure, sure, Sunil.
Yep.
Let's go.
So as someone with extensive experience in leadership development, uh, and as you also said, like you're promoting happiness at your company. So how do you approach providing constructive feedback to nurture that growth mindset among your team members?
Right, right. Wonderful question, Kunal. To begin with, begin the session, I must say, because see, the definition of constructive feedback is unknown to most of the people. That's where we start because I will definitely answer the core as well and try to keep it short. The constructive feedback. See, today what happens is I have about 1,000 people in the organization, and 60% of my um, entire strength is between 1 to 8 years of experience, folks working in the organization. And for them, working is there are only two things. I need to do my job 9 to 6, complete my tasks. If I don't, I extend and I go home. End of the month, I get my salary. And once in a year, I get my salary revised. These are the three parameters what this fraternity understands. Very few understands a little more deeper, but this lot, which is the case with most of the organization, do not understand what constructive feedback is. In fact, what feedback is, they don't know. The feedback I when I spoke to most of the people, when there is a feedback given, which is not in positive, which is not positive in nature, and we are trying to tell them about the suggestions and feedbacks, which is for their improvement. Generally, they don't take it well. They say, "Oh, feedback is always positive." So my work, the entire people function at Covalence Digital, or what I believe in is um, that we start from educating people on what constructive feedback is. It takes 10 minutes in the entire conversation what I'm having with my employee. A 10 minutes education about what constructive feedback is and how they have to take it is really very important. And we've been able to achieve that to a greater extent in all my organizations I've worked with. Now, here coming to the question, constructive feedback cannot be just given verbally, it has to be written. It has to be written, it has to be documented, it has to be tracked on a regular basis. Now, this is when the constructive feedback comes out well and it gets absorbed well by the second party as well with whom we are talking. So, practice is that I will write the KRAs, KPIs of the people, and we will make sure that they are following it. And there's always a follow up happening on that particular point. So, what I believe on that aspect is if we do that, they have a better clarity that what is the kind of the feedback they are going to get when they're coming to receive the feedback from the HR, be it from the HR or be it from the manager with whom they are working. So it is very important that we so approach is here: one, educate; second, write; and then third, discuss. And when we are giving the one of the other practice what we are following is when we are giving the feedback to any people, any experience level, there is always a follow up on that because there is always a maintenance once the construction is done. So that maintenance is also very very important. The follow up to ask how they are feeling after listening to it and how they are going to improve and have a future plan on the improvement, and that plan is again written. Now, this takes a little bit of extra efforts from the people function team and from the manager's side, and we have to join our hands and tell the managers that, boss, please help us do this because this is going to help us in the long run. And it has been helping us. So my approach, or the people function approach, what I've always believed and have done and delivered, is that right, sorry, it is starting with educate, right, and then follow up. That would be my approach, and that is what I've been doing it, and pretty successful in doing that. Yes, it takes a lot of efforts, but it's worth doing it.
Wonderful, Akhil. I'm like, you definitely mentioned a very important point is like whatever feedback we are talking about, writing them is very important. So, as it is always said, writing is thinking. To write well is actually to think clearly. And of course,
Absolutely.
once, yep. So once you are able to like write it down and document it well, of course, that brings most of the clarity in itself. And then 50% or like more than 50% of the confusions are already over because you have written things very clearly. So that's a very, very valid point. And coming to you, Archana, and if I talk about your understanding or your experiences or your take in terms of the role of feedback in fostering a culture of accountability within teams and organizations, if you wanted to like throw some light on this.
Uh, Great. Thanks, Kunal. Thanks for that question. It's a great question for me to develop on. Um, to, to answer this, I would like to start quoting a recent study made by SHR during their recent webcast on understanding why employees fail in their responsibilities, where 80% of the reason recorded were that they are not told what to do. They were not very clear on their responsibilities. So with that, that sets a very a tone for a very strong correlation on how feedback fosters to accountability. So see, generally accountability suffers when an employee is not very clear of his role and responsibilities, or they're not very clear on how their contribution affects achievement of overall goal of the organization and of their own team, or when they're doing something great, or no, in on terms of what they are doing really great and where they are falling back, or if they lack confidence or guidance in how to use their strengths over weaknesses to overcome challenges, or in terms also many a times when they do not realize or feel the what is in it for me factor in the organization. So a lack of clarity on these areas definitely hampers the motivation and morale of employees every time. So with that, I strongly feel and submit that feedback serves to be a very crucial tool or a cornerstone to clarify and give directions, clear directions to employees on these areas. And I see it to be the magical key, that could potentially unlock the greatest potential of people when done effectively. At times, yes, I also acknowledge without feedback, even the best we will lose.
Yep, bang on point, Archana, of course. So that's a very, very, very important part of this
Thanks.
particular discussion and of this particular problem that we are trying to discuss and solve today. So, Rahul, coming to you, and we have already done many discussions at length in our previous interaction. Now, this being a different topic, I would like from you, what are, I mean, like in your experience or in your opinion, what are those some subtle indicators that suggest that an individual organization may be resistant to the feedback-driven growth?
Yeah, fine. That's a very important question, in fact. Yeah, thanks for giving me that. I think before I can actually get on to answering this question, I want to just mention I completely resonate with what Akhil and Archana mentioned, especially the points where they mentioned that the like Akhil mentioned, it has to be written, documented, and reviewed. Right, I completely resonate with that. And also, adding Archana's point to that, while you write, document, and track or review the feedback, clearly communicating the what's in it for me. Like she very clearly added that point. I think I completely resonate with it. Kunal, I'm just checking once again. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, just taking the same, I want to just continue with what Archana and Akhil have mentioned, right? In the previous talk, also, I did mention about The flip of what's in it for me, the WIIFM, the opposite of it, which is WDILWI, which is what do I lose without it, right? So the very first question that I think we would want to start off with is, why am I giving this feedback, and what will happen if I don't give it? Right. So both the WIAFM as well as the WDILWI, right? What am I losing out by not giving this feedback? So to get to slowly bring, connect the dots between the question you asked me, Kunal, the first question actually, which again I would try to ask, is what are those indicators that show that this is a feedback resistant organization? One thing that I would say in the topmost shelf is this a process oriented feedback? Is the feedback given as a process oriented approach, or is it given as a person oriented approach? Right. So while Akhil was mentioning that you write, document, and track it, is this a process that the company follows? Is it, or is it something that one person in the company follows it? Right. So that is the question I think we may have to ponder it. So if this person moves out of the organization, if my manager moves out of the organization, who else will give me the feedback? Do I have to depend only on my manager to give me the feedback because it's person oriented, or is it process oriented, so anybody else can give me the feedback, right? So that is, I think that will sort of set the context for the whole feedback reception part of it itself. Second thing that I noticed, one of my favorite words besides feedback is the word feed forward, right? So if Kunal, you are also mentioning, so imagine you gave a con, walk up to you and I tell you, hey Kunal, fantastic performance, sir. Okay, and let's imagine you perform 10 items. Okay, and I just come to you and I say, hey Kunal, fantastic performance. Now you could take that as a feedback and hashtags, positive feedback, because it made you feel good, right? And at the same time, let's imagine in another concert, you again perform 10 items, and I come to you and I say, hey Kunal, I think you could have sung better. I don't give any other specifics. I just come and tell you, hey Kunal, I think you could have sung better. Now, what are you going to do with that feedback? That's the question that you will start pondering about. Okay, Rahul came to me and he said, I could have sung better, but I sang 10 songs. Which song is he referring to? Is he referring to my voice, or is he referring to my, to the inflections that I use while I'm singing, or the vocal dynamics? What did he refer to, right? So that is where we get to the concept of the fact versus opinions, right? Data versus opinion. So in the feedback that is being given, written, documented, and tracked, how much of it is an facts? I think is the question that we need to again ponder about. Most companies may miss out on this. So the word I think, right? Nobody wants to know what we think. If I come to Kunal and say, Kunal, I think your performance could have been better. It's an opinion that I am sharing with you, which cannot be considered as a constructive feedback because you're not able to do anything with it. Rather, if I come and tell you, Kunal, in the third item that you sang in the second paragraph, I think there was some mistakes in the lyrics. Maybe I think you would want to look at it once again. Now you know crystal clearly what it is that you want to do, and connecting the dots with what Akhil mentioned, I can give that to you in writing because it's a formal process in an organization. I can clearly tell you, Akhil, in the third item that you performed, in the second paragraph, the lyrics had some mistake. Okay, now that will give you crystal clear clarity as to what am I supposed to do with it. And so I would in fact go on to the extent of changing the title of today's talk itself as the link between feedback, feed forward, and performance. Right. So I think the word feed forward is like the keyword that I would want to focus on. And that is what is getting missed in most teams and with most managers, that the clarity about what to do next. Okay, okay, you've given me the feedback now. Chalo, what am I supposed to do with this? I think that is the question where that resistance comes in if that is not clear. All right. So yeah. So these are some top points at the top of my mind. I would love to listen from others as well. Kunal.
Wonderful, wonderful, Rahul. I'm like, these are some amazing, amazing points and some amazing analogies you actually use to actually like make it very easy to understand for everyone. So that
Yeah, I think.
definitely is a very important point where like it has to be very detailed feedback. Feedback also has to be very just saying that you are wrong or it was not great. Very broad kind of statement.
Just to add one more point, Kunal, because we were mentioning about the word constructive feedback also, I was reminded of the Kung Fu Panda movie, right? So where Master Shifu, he runs to Oogway, the turtle, the tortoise, and then he tells him, he goes on saying, Master, I have bad news. All right, and then Uguay, the biggest master, the senior most master, he says, Shifu, there is no good news or bad news. There is only news, right? So I think I take the same parallels and I say there is no good feedback or bad feedback. There is only feedback. The way I put it across to the person and the way the person receives it is what will determine whether the feedback was constructive or critical. And it was, whether it was criticism or constructive feedback. So I think, yeah, there is no good feedback or bad feedback according to me. There's only useful feedback and useless feedback. I think I would like to take it that way. Yeah. Yes, Kunal.
Perfect,
Over
perfect.
to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, sure. Thanks for putting it in a very subtle way, Rahul. Thanks for that. So, Akhil, I mean, coming
Sure.
to you, and a lot of important feedback and points coming both from Archana and Rahul as well, along with whatever beautiful opinions that you added. So, a very important point, which has also been mentioned by Rahul in his like just discussion, that who is for like who is exactly involved, is it just a single person, or is it a team, or is it a corporate, uh, I should say a culture which is actually involved into that. But then at the end of the day, it always starts first from an individual awareness, because you as a leader, let's say for example, you are aware about how to actually create that positive growth mindset and like positive feedback culture. Then first of all, there has to be very great self-awareness. So I mean, in your opinion, what role does self-awareness play in embracing the feedback and cultivating that growth mindset, and that too particularly with the leadership roles?
Right. Okay, Kunal, thanks again. And I heard Archana and Rahul as well. Wonderful points there again. I think couple of points I wrote down when I was listening to them. One point before I answer Kunal's question, one point which Archana said, without feedback we will lose the importance. I think that's something which stick. I mean, like it's stuck onto my mind. I'm gonna do something about it. So thanks, Archana, for that. I think wonderful inputs, and you also gave some insights from the survey that also has given good insights. I mean, good value to this entire statement. And as Rahul said, what's in it for me? I think that's the important part of the entire feedback giving session, because if the other person does not know what is there in that for him or her, uh, the entire exercise is of no use. So that's wonderful. I think it's a learning for me as well. Great. So moving on. So I think, see, the point here is my opinion on how do we create the self awareness. I think in the first point I mentioned that education is really important. Educating about the process is really very important. And as Rahul mentioned, that is it the process, is it the individual, and is it the manager? It's the organization culture is where we have to take it to, because individually I can do it today. If I'm not there tomorrow, the things will not move. So it has to be a culture of the organization, and that's what we try to do as an organization. People who are involved in the organization, the managers, the people function, the individuals, they all are aware about the entire process of giving and taking feedback, and how they have to receive it, and what they have to do. As I said, maintenance, that is tracking, reviewing, is absolutely important. So it is the organization which needs to move towards this direction and build a culture around it, that we are open to take and receive and give feedback. So that's what we try to do and we want to do. That is what my approach has always been in terms of executing this entire process of performance and feedback to our associates. Now, creating the self awareness by embracing the feedback, I think it is again very important uh, that I am aware that why I am being given that feedback, and how I will have to take it to the next level for my improvements and my betterments. So one of the aspect what I feel, my opinion, or my approach here has always been that I have always given the success stories of taking the feedback and working upon it, and improving it. Like, let's say for example, there is a feedback which is not very positive in nature. When an employee or an associate takes that feedback, the employee has to evaluate what feedback is being given, and how the employee now has to work upon that, and take it to the next level where he or she will come up with a plan to improve. Now how does that plan comes out? Because be it a leader or anybody at the lower level or middle level, everyone needs the support, because what I feel is at the very ground level, if somebody gets a feedback, we are all Indians. I don't like negative feedback. Simple as that. We all say that feedback is a feedback, but we are Indians. We will not like it, even though if we act as if we liked it, we loved it, but deep down the heart, there is that 1-2% which tells me that, damn, why did he or she tell me this feedback? I am good at that. So we always need that one hand which comes and taps on the shoulder and says, dude, tell me what how do you want to do it next. So that's where the people function comes into the picture, and that's where the growth mindset starts building. And that's where we come into the picture. When I say we, the HR fraternity comes into the picture to tap the hand on the shoulder and say that, okay, dude, tell me how do you want to do it next? What do you want to do it next? Right? So that's something very important. It's a personal touch, because we cannot have a feedback or an entire process of giving and taking and receiving feedback as a process. It needs to have that personal touch, because if I am giving a feedback which may not be, which is not always negative in nature, positive in nature, there has to be somebody who is holding on to that person after the feedback is given, and that's where the growth mindset starts building. It is specifically for the leadership roles, because that is where, because leaders are already being developed, and for the leader, it is that I am already good and I can do wonders. I can do a lot of stuff, and probably no one can give me the feedback. They have already built the walls. When the walls are built and somebody comes and gives and hampers that wall, that's when somebody is required to say that, okay, how do we want to do it next? What do we want to do it next? So it's just very important to have the overall, like in the entire process, to have the personal touch from the from the HR fraternity to the folks, and build the growth mindset after receiving the feedback. Now, this is not necessary to have only for the negative feedbacks. It could be for positive, negative. As we said, right? Feedback is a feedback. Irrespective of what feedback is, as long as we give a personal touch, personal approach, and help build the growth mindset of an employee, that definitely helps in return to grow in the particular role to the next role, next level in the specific role as well. And this is specifically applied to leadership roles mostly because, as I said, I'm repeating this again, because they have already built the walls. Because I feel if I am at the leadership role at my organization, there are already 10, 15 people, or probably the entire organization is looking up to me as a leader. And somebody comes and gives me the feedback for my improvement, it is it is a disaster for me. I will not like it. So in that particular scenario, that's where the function, HR function, comes into the picture. And the awareness, boss, you can also receive a feedback, is something very important. And that education has to be given from all at all levels. So yeah, that's my opinion. Education and personal touch, and in the entire process, HR function plays very crucial role in building the growth mindset.
Sure. Thanks, Akhil, for a very detailed and I'm like very detailed answer, of course. And since this is a kind of point when we can actually have endless discussions on this, because this is a very very important part where we talk about the self awareness. And so, Archana, I'm like coming to you and like just continuing this particular conversation. That as Akhil was also mentioning, where we actually have to maintain that morale and motivation within the teams, because they should actually have that specific strength and the specific openness to actually accept that specific feedbacks as well. So uh, in your opinion or your experience, how what do you think that how can leaders effectively balance this need for the constructive feedback and while maintaining that balance with the keeping the morale and motivation within the teams?
Before I answer, I'd like to resonate on Rahul and Kunal's point. Thanks, Rahul, on resonating and acknowledging up, my points. Yes, it was definitely another side of it that Rahul made me think. Yeah, what is the contrary of what is in it for me? The contrary is like, what if it is not right? So that was an eye opening for me during this session. Thanks, Rahul, on that. And Kunal had been touching on interesting points as well, like a feedback is a feedback. I got it from both of them. Feedback is a feedback, whether it is a positive or a negative, yes, and it doesn't make difference. And one stuck my mind with Kunal's talk is that yes, we are Indians and we do not like negative feedback. We also are Indians, and we love to give negative feedback. That's how the corporate world and even so things at home works. So quickly jumping on to answer your question, Kunal, I would like to quote a scenario at home. See, this is I'm a little I do this very commonly. I usually take a lot of references to scenario, from scenarios from personal life and at home, because I strongly believe that it's just the environment which is different, and it's the workplace and it is our home. Workplace is, I see workplace for all of us to be a second home. It's just that the family members are different. Here, there, at workplace it is our team and employees, and at home it's our own family members. So I reflect upon a lot of personal scenarios, and I would like to highlight or quote one of it. So just imagine, think, your child. If a child comes and says to the father or the mother that, "Hey mom, hey dad, I've got a. I mean, my mom has given me a star in my hand, or she has appreciated me in the class." What do we tend to do as parents? We immediately jump into, irrespective of their age and irrespective of the level of appreciation that they have received, irrespective of the achievement level, we quickly jump in to acknowledge them for their achievement. Why do we do that? Because we are so cautious, because they are our own children, and we should ensure that they grow with morale, they grow with with all motivation, they grow with confidence. So we want to keep up their motivation level and the morale, and make them to repeat such accomplishing behaviors. We indirectly give them the responsibility, in terms of repeating such behaviors, to be top at the school and shine really good in their career and life, right? So all of this objective that we are trying to put on the child, when we appreciate a child, are very relevant, and are very very relevant to the objective that we have as leaders at our organization. So we'll have to keep up the morale of people, we'll have to motivate them as leaders, ensure that they keep up, and a positive reinforcement happens there. So I'm again going to take you to a different situation where the same child comes and tell you one day, "Mom, I want to become a football player. Because I want to become a football player, why should I go to school? Why should I study?" Right? Do we just leave them? Yes, of course, he's already shining and getting serious about his career as a football player. Still, as parents, do we leave them because we know this is not going to be right for them, and it's not going to help them, also the family. So what we do, we quickly jump in, give them clarity as to, Baba, what happened, why you're not going to school, why you don't want to go to school, is there anything wrong, are you do you know why you're going to school, do you know what happens if you're no, what will happen if you're not going to go to school, you should have a plan B. All of these gyans we get into, and we sit patiently with our children and do that. But at times, or many a times, leaders miss on ensuring this responsibility being taken, carried to their work environment as well. So, to quickly, connecting the scenarios I had given, um, I would suggest to start, by acknowledging good job, good work done. Celebrate small winnings, you'll so that you keep up their morale. Whenever we get opportunity, praise them. That could be a great deal to keep the morale. And yes, praising keeps up not just their morale and motivation. They tend to think, they tend to be a little proactive and come out and say, hey boss, what is it, what shall we do. So you in fact create a creative mindset. You develop on the creative mindset in the minds of people in your own team. So start acknowledging is one of it. And both Rahul and Kunal had insisted, Rahul especially, on how the feedbacks are being given. Yeah, there, at times we hear from our boss, hey, the report could have been done better. The same scenario Rahul dwell upon. Right, we are not very clear when we give or receive feedback, and many times, if the feedback comes from the top management, or at the people from the top level, the juniors, they step back to go and ask them, hey, come on, I don't know what you're referring to, I'm not able to understand what you're referring to, give me a clarity, give me guidance, step by step guidance as to what I have to do so that I can do better. So that does not happen. So giving very specific feedback, be as specific as you can. In fact, if you've observed a behavior on a particular day which is not acceptable, uh, but for some reason you're not able to connect with your team member for the next 4 or 5 days, or even for a week. So you can also have a note where you can take the you know you can put a notebook and make a note of what is that I have to communicate to my team member. What exactly was the behavior that was unacceptable? Like Rahul said, if when a boss says your report is not good, as well, a feedback like the report could have been better if it was formatted with relevant colors, and a couple of these inputs are also added with a pivot or a chart on into the side. That will give a very pictorial representation of your complete data, and it catches eye of people. So that would have been that could be a very relevant and specific feedback that can be given. um, uh, Try to go with an open mindset, as Kunal said. Yeah, we are Indians, and we don't accept. We are not really happy to take negative feedbacks. When we sit to discuss on critical feedback as leaders, it is our responsibility to go with an open mindset, to take inputs from employees and correct if required on the perceptions that we have. So uh, I would also touch upon focusing on the type of feedback and the place you choose. If it is an appreciation, do it in front of people. And if it is a critical feedback that you would like to give, please ensure that it is a private setting for you to discuss on those areas. So that's a few things that came to my mind for this question, Kunal. Thank you.
Thanks, Archana, for the detailed answer on this. Just to correct you on one thing, I was getting undue credit for the answers. It was not me and Rahul; it was Akhil and Rahul. So you got confused between my name and Akhil's name. So it was Akhil who was actually like adding
Yeah,
all the
Akhil
details.
and Rahul. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Akhil.
I hope Akhil wanted to actually correct that once by unmuting himself, but then
Yeah,
in the middle
yeah.
of like
But
like
then I let you take the credit, Kunal. That's fine.
See, that is also constructive feedback only, you know.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I was
Right?
silently enjoying the credit myself.
Oh,
So
what an
I
example.
appreciate, Kunal coming up and openly saying, I don't want to take this credit, but that doesn't really happen in many organizations, huh? Yeah.
I think we need employees
If,
like Kunal then.
if I'm not late, I think I'd a quick point that came into my mind on the same thought, on the same question is that um, we always see feedbacks. We always wait for appraisals to come to share feedbacks. Um, Getting into the practice of giving feedback whenever you find an unacceptable behavior or a credible behavior, that would be that makes the employees work more towards the achievement of their goals. Once think of a situation where we normalize feedback as a value in our system. Appraisals become so easier. And as rightly Akhil said, when there are appraisals, when there are feedbacks, negative feedbacks, we are finally looked up as, hey, this guy doesn't have any idea. He, because it is appraisal time, he wants to touch on our salaries and the ratings. He's talking, I know I have done better, I know I'm the only one who can do better. So that kind of mindset would change when feedbacks are given then and there. Thank you, Kunal.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Archana. So, thanks for the detailed answer. So, here we are towards the end of the show, and with the last question here. So, Rahul, coming to you and like discussing. So, we have already discussed the self-awareness side of the feedback. We also discussed about morale and the motivation in feedbacks. Now, I want to like come to you and a very important point, which is self-reflection. So, what strategies do you recommend for incorporating that self reflection into the feedback process to enhance the effectiveness of that whole feedback effort that goes into?
Oh yeah, I think that's one of my favorite questions. So brilliant points from both Akhil and Archana. I would love to keep continuing with their points itself. I think the last point that Archana also mentioned regarding the reactive versus proactive, right? Am I waiting for an incident to happen, and am I waiting for the half yearly or quarterly or the yearly feedback process day to come for me to give feedback, or am I giving it then and there? I think that's a brilliant point which Archana brought up. Thanks for that, Archana. So I think, yeah, drawing parallels with that again and getting back to this question, the self-reflection part, Kunal, I think I'd like to slightly, digress into a little bit of the psychological element as to why people are not giving constructive feedback, or the other way, the receiving end, why people are not receiving feedback constructively. Okay, let me give it two ways. I mean, I'll repeat the statement. Why people are not giving constructive feedback, and on the other end, why people are not receiving feedback constructively. Okay, so there are only three reasons why I think this may happen. Reason number one is just that I don't want to do it. Right, I'm not interested to do it. I don't like the person. I have no respect for the person. I don't like the processes. I don't like the system. Everything you can. It's just a straightforward conscious decision that I don't want to give feedback, or on the receiver's end, I don't want to receive this feedback constructively. Okay, it's a conscious choice. Second reason is I want to do it, but I am unable to do it. Okay, so the person who is giving the feedback wants to give feedback constructively, but he or she is not able to do it constructively, or they are not able to do it effectively. Maybe because they are both of them are located in two different regions, in two different geographical regions. They're not able to meet face to face, or they don't have the right infrastructure where this feedback can be given and documented. So it could be that they genuinely want to do it, but they're not able to do it. Okay. Reason number one, and just repeating, reason number one is I don't want to do it. Reason number two is I want to do it, but I'm unable to do it. And reason number three is I don't even know that I'm supposed to do it. Right? So the person is genuinely ignorant about the whole process. They don't know, like Achana and Akhil were mentioning the. I love the point that Akhil mentioned. Right? It has to be a culture of the organization, right? So, and the question is, how important is the people element for the leaders, right? Like we have the disc profiling, the DISC, right? Dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. We will have companies that are D oriented, companies that are I oriented, companies that are S oriented, and companies that are C oriented, right? Companies that are, for those of you who may have not heard about DISC, just a very quick thing. D is the dominance oriented companies are completely goal oriented. Right? They don't care about anything else but just targets, right? I oriented companies are those who for whom relationships matter and people matter, right? And S oriented companies are those for whom stability and steadiness matters, that is more important for them. And C oriented people are the ones for whom compliance, the C stands for compliance, which means rules, regulations, protocols, data. These are data oriented people, right? So now is how much of importance is the company or the management or the leadership team, how much of importance are they giving to the people element of the company? So that's where it I think boils down to. If that is really important, then they will find mechanisms to give this and make the severity or the magnitude of the importance of giving feedback. They will take care of it naturally. They'll take care of it. The reactive versus proactive, whether they're waiting for a negative incident to happen and then give feedback, or are they going to be proactive and prevent the whole incident from happening in the first place itself, right? So these are some ways. So self reflection again, I think summarizing all the points that we've spoken so far, again I would like to repeat the point of the WIAFM which Archana mentioned, and the point that I added called WDI. That's what's in it for me and what do I lose without it. So if I, as a feedback receiver, if I know that if I don't receive this critical constructive feedback, then my career aspirations itself can get affected. I might not grow in the direction that I want to grow. I might become complacent for all you know. I might get this feeling that chalo, okay, whatever I know and whatever experience I have is enough. I can deal with the rest of my career with whatever I have now. I don't need to really improve, right? This complacence is probably one of the worst enemies that we as people can have, right? So am I open enough to know that I don't know everything and I have things to improve on? So the self reflection comes in there. It's like one of my gurus had told me that you will be respected more not for what you know but for your acceptance about what you don't know, right? So when do I have the willingness and open mindedness and the courage to say, hey, I don't know this, or I'm not good at this, can you help me with this, right? So that's where. So of course there are so many feedback frameworks like the SBI model, the situation behavior impact model, where you can convert even an opinion into a data, right? Instead of saying, Kunal, you're not a good musician, okay, you're not a good performer, okay, that's an opinion. Now I can convert that into a fact. Again, Kunal, I'm not I'm not trying to convince you that you're not good. I'm just giving an example. So just trying to convert that into a fact by maybe saying, Kunal, in the concert that you performed last Saturday, the fourth item, your vocal range was not at its optimal level, so you may want to concentrate on the higher octave a little bit more. Okay, so now I converted the whole thing into situation, behavior, impact. Sorry, I didn't expand the SBI. SBI stands for situation, behavior, and impact. So to make the person reflect, again, your question was about self reflection. I start off by mentioning the situation where the person demonstrated this behavior, and the B stands for behavior, which is I explain the behavior that the person demonstrated in that situation. And finally, the I, which is impact, I explain the impact that came up because of this behavior that the person demonstrated in this situation. All right. So that makes it very clear. The person cannot become defensive. Then the person cannot say, suppose I come to you and say, Kunal, I think you can improve as a musician. Then you have all the rights to bounce back at me and say, hey Rahul, that's what you think, yeah, that's what you think. But 15 others came and praised me that I'm a good musician. right? But if I again give the same example that I gave you, last Saturday in the concert that you performed, in the fifth item that you sang, in this particular paragraph, the higher octave notes are not hitting clearly, right? So that's crystal clear fact that I'm giving you because you can listen to the recording once you go home and actually reflect on it, right? So I'm helping you reflect. Right? So that again boils down to the point that Akhil mentioned is it the culture of the company itself that people are important for me, what they feel is important for me, how I make them feel is important for me. I think it boils down to that. So it's like a give and take policy. I reflect and I make you reflect. Right. So self reflection happens like a 360-degree holistic process. So I have to reflect myself and then I have to make my team members reflect as well. So I think there's a lot of things that come around that, Kunal. So I think I mentioned a lot of points, but I hope there were some keywords that stuck out. Yeah. Thanks for that question again, Kunal. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. So even I'm like all of you provided very, very detailed insights, and I'm like covered the whole complete length and breadth of the questions. Still, we are completely bang on time, and we are still left with a minute. So that's amazing. And Prakash, I can see your request for speaking. So of course, unfortunately, currently we are not left with the time. But I would definitely ask the show host, either Lokesh or Shelly will get in touch with you, and then of course we can actually understand and explore what are the points that you wanted to add or speak on to, or we can actually accommodate you in one of our next episodes as well, because you also come with a very rich experience from this particular background, so we'll definitely want to listen to you what exactly say. But unfortunately, sorry, today we are exactly done with the time. So but I would actually ensure that I accommodate your request as well. So sorry for that, Prakash. Apologies, but we'll accommodate that request going forward. So so here we are towards the end of the show, and as I said, well within the time, and that too covering all the important insights and valuable knowledge across the length and breadth of the questions. And you all actually opened up your heart, opened up whatever you have in store in terms of your experiences, in terms of your opinions, and whatever your learnings have been. So it was really, really amazing and an interesting discussion. I'm like, uh, it was just like a conversation, more of just like a normal talk show. So thanks to all of you for sparing this precious 1 hour and making it even more valuable for our entire community. Thanks for addressing all the questions with all of your heart. So all the best with the great work that you all are doing to empower your teams and organizations, spreading happiness, spreading that constructive feedback across teams. Thanks all of you for being on the show. It was lovely speaking to all of you.
Thank you, Kunal. Thanks, Archana and Akhil. Lovely meeting you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kunal.
Thanks for
Thanks, Rahul.
great insights
Thank
Yes.
taken away today.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
great
Looking
insights.
forward to connect further. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
So
Thank
goodbye,
you, everyone.
everyone. All the
Bye.
amazing speakers, all the amazing listeners. We'll get in touch with the target people very soon. And see you all in our next episode of Productivity League. Signing off for now. Goodbye, everyone.